The transport ship cut through the smoke-filled sky of Velthara Prime. Inside, Taman checked his rifle for the third time. His hands moved automatically, a habit formed through countless battles. Around him, the other human soldiers sat in silence. They all knew what waited below. The planet was dying. From orbit, Taman had seen the scars. Crystal cities that once sparkled like jewels now lay in ruins. Fires burned across entire continents. The Kravik's dominion had been thorough in their destruction. 2 minutes to landing, the pilot announced. Taman looked at his squad. Lieutenant Sunhee gave him a small nod. Private Junho was praying quietly. They were good soldiers. They would need to be. The Veltharans were losing this war badly. Earth had only joined the galactic community 6 months ago. In that short time, humanity had gained a reputation. Other species called humans reckless. They called them crazy. But they also called them when they needed someone to hold an impossible line. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. Through the window, Taman could see the Veltharan capital. It had been beautiful once. Now it was a battlefield. The transport landed hard on a platform near the Imperial Palace. The ramp dropped, and Taman led his squad out. The air tasted of smoke and something else, something sweet that made his nose itch. Veltharan atmosphere. He would get used to it. Veltharan soldiers stood nearby. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow faintly. Their large eyes watched the humans with a mixture of hope and doubt. Taman understood. They had been fighting for 3 years and losing for most of it. Why would a few hundred humans make any difference? Remove helmets, Taman ordered his squad. Show them we're here to help. He pulled off his own helmet first. The strange air hit his face fully now. He breathed it in, looking around at the destroyed city. Something felt odd. Not bad, just strange. Like he had been here before, though he knew he had not. That was when he saw her. She stood on a balcony overlooking the landing platform. Even from a distance, Taman could tell she was different from the other Veltharans. She wore robes that seemed to shift colors like an oil slick. Her skin glowed brighter than the others, but it was her eyes that caught him. They looked like galaxies swirling with colors he had no names for. Empress Haon. He knew her from the mission briefing. She ruled what remained of the Veltharan Empire. By all accounts, she was a brilliant leader. Cold, calculating, never showing emotion. The perfect ruler for a dying empire. But right now she was staring at him. Not at the human troops. Not at the ships. At him specifically. And her face had gone completely still. Taman felt something strange in his chest. A pull like a string tied to his heart, drawing him toward her. He had never felt anything like it, sir. Sunhee touched his arm. You okay? Taman shook his head, breaking eye contact with the Empress. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's move, but he was not fine. As they marched toward the palace entrance, he could not stop himself from looking back. The Empress was still watching him. Her attendants were speaking to her urgently, but she ignored them. Her lips moved, forming a single word. Even across the distance, Taman somehow knew what she said. A name. Minho. Inside the palace, the humans were given a quick briefing. The situation was worse than Earth Command had told them. The Kraviks had taken 80% of Veltharan territory. They had killed billions. Now they were making their final push toward the capital. We need you on the eastern defense line, a Veltharan officer named Jiwan explained. She was older than the other Veltharans, with scars across her glowing skin. The Kraviks will attack there at dawn. How many? Taman asked. 5,000, maybe more. And our forces? 1,000 Veltharan troops. And now 100 humans. The other Veltharan officers looked grim. The math was simple and brutal. But Taman just nodded. He had fought worse odds before. Most humans had. As the meeting ended, a servant approached Taman. The Empress requests to see you alone. Sunhee frowned, but Taman waved her off. It's fine. Get the squad settled. I'll catch up. The servant led him through winding corridors. The palace was beautiful despite the war. Crystal walls caught the light in strange ways. The floors felt soft under his boots. Everything seemed alive somehow. They stopped before a large door. The servant bowed and left without a word. Taman stood there for a moment, his hand resting on his sidearm. Then he knocked. Enter. Her voice was soft but carried weight. Taman opened the door and stepped inside. The room was smaller than he expected. Books and data tablets covered every surface. Star maps glowed on the walls. In the center of it all stood Empress Hayan. Up close, she was even more striking. She barely came up to his shoulder, but her presence filled the room. Those galaxy eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made him want to step back. "You are Taman," she said. "Not a question." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Do you believe in reincarnation, Taman?" The question caught him off guard. I don't know. I never thought much about it. Heian moved closer. Her hand reached up, stopping just short of touching his face. "You look exactly like him, exactly the same eyes. The same face. Even the way you stand." "Like who?" "My mate, Minho. He died 3 years ago leading the defense against the first Kravix attack." Her voice cracked slightly. "He died a hero, and now you stand before me wearing his face." Taman did not know what to say. Reincarnation. Soulmates. These were not things soldiers thought about. But looking at her, he felt that pull again. Stronger now, like coming home after a long journey. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly. "But I'm not him. I'm just a soldier from Earth. Are you?" Heian's hand finally touched his cheek. Her skin was warm and seemed to hum with energy. "Then why do I feel his soul when I touch you?" Before Taman could answer, the palace shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms began screaming throughout the building. Jiwan burst through the door. "Empress! The Kravix have launched an orbital strike. The palace is a target. We must get you to the bunker now." Another explosion, closer this time. The floor tilted. Taman grabbed Heian as she stumbled. Through the window he could see fire falling from the sky. The Kravix were not waiting until dawn. They were attacking now. "Go," Jiwan shouted. "I will hold them here." "Get the Empress to safety." Taman did not argue. He scooped Heian into his arms and ran. Behind them, the room exploded in fire and crystal shards. The palace was coming apart around them. "The bunker is 3 levels down," Heian said, her arms around his neck. Through the western corridor. Taman ran, his training taking over. He dodged falling debris, jumped over holes in the floor, and kept moving forward. Other Veltharans fled past them in panic. Soldiers tried to organize a defense, but the attack was too sudden, too fierce. They reached the stairs and started down. Above them, the ceiling groaned. Taman looked up and saw it starting to collapse. He threw himself forward, shielding Heian with his body as tons of crystal and metal crashed down behind them. When the dust settled, they were alone in the dark corridor. The way back was completely blocked. Taman's back hurt where debris had hit him, but his armor had held. "Are you hurt?" he asked Heian. "No. You protected me." Her eyes glowed in the darkness, providing the only light. Just like he used to. Taman helped her stand. Somewhere above, the battle raged on. But here, 3 levels under the palace, there was only silence and the sound of their breathing. "We need to keep moving," he said. "Wait." Heian grabbed his hand. "I need to know. Have you ever dreamed of crystal cities? Of someone with eyes like stars?" Taman froze. He had. For as long as he could remember, he had dreamed of a place like this. Of searching for someone he could never quite see. He always woke up with his chest aching like he had lost something precious. "Yes," he whispered. "I have." Heian's breath caught. "Then perhaps the universe is not as cruel as I thought." Another explosion shook the corridor. They needed to move. But for just a moment, Taman and Heian stood together in the dark, hands clasped, while above them the world burned. The bunker door was 200 meters away when they heard the footsteps. Heavy, mechanical. Kravix. Taman pushed Heian behind him and raised his rifle. The corridor was narrow, which worked in his favor. They would have to come at him one at a time. 3 Kravix soldiers rounded the corner. They were massive creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor plates that looked like black stone. Red eyes glowed from behind helmet visors. Each carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. They saw Taman and charged. He fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The first Kravix's helmet exploded in a spray of dark blood. The second took a round through the throat. The third was almost on him when Taman dropped his rifle, drew his combat knife, and drove it up through the gap in the creature's jaw. The Kravix fell. The entire fight lasted 5 seconds. Heian stared at the bodies. "I have never seen anyone move that fast." "Humans are good at killing," Taman said simply. He reloaded his rifle and kept moving. "It's what we do best." They reached the bunker door. It was solid metal, nearly a meter thick. Heian placed her hand on a scanner and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, Veltharan officials and military officers crowded around holographic displays. They all turned when the Empress entered. "Your Majesty." An older male rushed forward.
Thank the stars you are safe.
Counselor Jiwon was holding the upper levels, Haeon said.
Did she make it out?
The male's face fell. No, Your Majesty, she... The entire wing collapsed. Haeon closed her eyes. Another friend lost. Another piece of her world gone. Taemin watched her face remain calm, but he saw her hands trembling. Show me the tactical situation, she commanded. The displays lit up with maps of the city. Red markers showed Kravik's positions. They were everywhere. The Veltharan forces were being pushed back on all fronts. We have maybe 6 hours before they breach the palace grounds, a military officer reported. After that, the bunker will not hold. What about the human reinforcements? Someone asked. They are fighting on the eastern line. Last reports showed them holding against forces 3 times their number. But they cannot hold forever. Taemin studied the map. The Kraviks were attacking in waves, wearing down the defenders. Standard siege tactics. But there was something else. The pattern of attack was designed to cut off retreat routes. They wanted everyone trapped. They are planning something bigger, he said. This is not just an attack. It's a setup. Everyone turned to look at him. A human giving tactical advice to the Veltharan High Command. But Haeon nodded. Explain, she said. Taemin pointed to the map. See how they are leaving this corridor open? They want you to evacuate through there. It's a kill zone. They will wait until the bunker empties, then destroy everyone at once. Then what do we do? The military officer demanded. We cannot stay here. We cannot fight our way out. Are you suggesting we just surrender? I'm suggesting we do what humans do best. We surprise them. For the next hour, Taemin worked with the Veltharan officers on a new plan. They would evacuate, but not where the Kraviks expected. The humans would create a diversion while the Veltharans escaped through the old mining tunnels beneath the city. It was risky. It was desperate. But it might work. As the meeting broke up, Haeon gestured for Taemin to follow her to a private chamber. It was small, barely larger than a closet with just a desk and 2 chairs. I need to show you something, she said. Something that may help you understand. She touched the wall and a hologram appeared. It showed a Veltharan male, tall and strong, with kind eyes that reminded Taemin of his own reflection. The resemblance was striking. Minho, Haeon said softly. My bonded mate. The hologram moved, showing memories. Minho laughing. Minho commanding troops. Minho holding Haeon close. In every image, he wore the same determined expression that Taemin often saw in mirrors. We met when we were young. Haeon continued. I was a princess, sheltered and naive. He was a soldier, brave and selfless. He taught me what it meant to truly care about something beyond duty. She touched the hologram gently. When the Kraviks first attacked, he led the defense. For 3 days, he held them at the northern gate while civilians evacuated. On the 4th day, they overwhelmed his position. His last transmission was to me. He said, I will find you again, in this life or the next. I promise. Tears ran down her glowing cheeks. Taemin felt his chest tighten. The pain in her voice was like a knife in his heart. Among my people, Haeon said, we believe in soul resonance. When 2 souls bond deeply enough, they become entangled at a quantum level. They find each other across lifetimes, across galaxies, across death itself. She looked at Taemin. When you removed your helmet on the landing platform, I felt it. His soul, I felt Minho. Taemin wanted to tell her she was wrong, that he was just a random human who happened to look like her dead mate. But he could not, because deep down some part of him recognized her too. I dream about you, he admitted. I mean, not you specifically, but someone like you, since I was a child. I always wake up feeling like I lost something important. He laughed bitterly. I thought I was just crazy. You are not crazy. Haeon stepped closer. My people have scientists who study soul resonance. It is rare, but it happens. When a bonded soul dies violently, sometimes the quantum connection seeks out a new host, usually within the same species. But the universe is strange, maybe desperate. Her hand touched his face again. Maybe Minho's soul reached across the stars and found you before you were even born. So what does that make me? Taemin asked. Him, a copy? Something else. It makes you yourself, Haeon said firmly. You are Taemin. You have your own life, your own choices, but you carry an echo of him. And that echo called me to you the moment we met. An explosion rocked the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Kraviks were getting closer. We should go, Taemin said.
The evacuation will start soon. Wait. Heian reached into her robes and pulled out a small pendant.
It glowed with inner light, pulsing gently. This was Minho's, a quantum crystal. It stores memories, emotions, pieces of a person's soul. She pressed it into Taemin's hand. Take it. If something happens to me, at least his memory will survive. Nothing is going to happen to you, Taemin said. I promise. Heian smiled sadly. Be careful making promises. Minho made me the same one. They returned to the main bunker.
The evacuation was beginning. Veltharan civilians and officials filed toward the mining tunnels. Outside, human and Veltharan soldiers prepared for the diversion. Sunhee found Taemin in the chaos.
Sir, we are ready.
Junho has rigged explosives on the eastern wall.
When they blow, the Kraviks will think we are making a run for it. Good. How many humans do we have left? 73. We lost 27 holding the palace entrance. 27 dead already. Taemin felt the familiar weight of command. Every death was his responsibility. Make sure everyone knows the plan, he said.
We need to hold for 30 minutes.
After that, we collapse back to the tunnels. 30 minutes. Sunhee nodded. We can do that. The explosives detonated with a roar that shook the entire bunker. Through the monitors, they watched Kravik's forces swarm toward the breach. Thousands of them, like insects drawn to light. Now, Taemin shouted. Human and Veltharan soldiers poured out of hidden positions. They hit the Kravik's flanks with everything they had. Rifles cracked. Energy weapons screamed. Grenades exploded among the enemy ranks. The Kraviks had been expecting a panicked retreat. Instead, they got a coordinated ambush. For a moment, their advance faltered. But only for a moment, they were too many. For every Kraviks that fell, 3 more took its place. The defenders fought with desperate courage, but the math was against them. In the bunker, Heian watched her people flee through the tunnels. Most would make it out. The plan was working. But the soldiers buying them time were dying fast. I should be out there, she said. No, Taemin replied. Your people need you alive. That's why we are fighting. But Minho would have— I'm not Minho. Taemin surprised himself with the force of his words. I'm sorry. But I'm not him, I'm me. And I'm telling you that the best thing you can do right now is survive. Heian stared at him. Then slowly she nodded. You are right. You are not him. You are you. She touched the quantum crystal hanging around his neck now. But I am grateful the universe sent you to me anyway. The last of the evacuees entered the tunnels. It was time for the soldiers to fall back. Taemin raised his comm. All units, collapse to— The warning came too late. The entire eastern wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and fire, something massive stepped into the bunker. A Kravik's war machine 10 meters tall, bristling with weapons. It saw the fleeing Veltharans. It saw the open tunnel entrance. And it began to move forward. No. Taemin ran toward it, firing his rifle. The bullets bounced off its armor like raindrops. The machine's cannon began to glow, charging a shot that would collapse the entire tunnel system. Everyone inside would be buried alive. Taemin did the only thing he could. He ran straight at the machine, dodging its legs, and climbed onto its back. He had 1 grenade left. 1 chance. He found a ventilation port and shoved the grenade inside. Then he jumped, hit the ground hard, and rolled. The machine exploded from the inside out. Metal and fire filled the bunker. When the smoke cleared, Taemin lay on the ground, his armor cracked, blood running from a cut on his head. But the tunnel entrance was safe. The tunnels were dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows. Taemin walked beside Heian, his rifle ready. Behind them, a long line of Veltharan refugees moved in silence. They had been walking for 2 hours. Taemin's head still hurt from the explosion, but he kept moving. Soldiers did not complain about pain. How much farther? He asked. The tunnels connect to the old transit system, Heian replied. From there we can reach the evacuation ships. Maybe 3 more hours. 3 hours. Taemin hoped they had that long. The Kraviks would realize what happened soon. They would come looking. Sunhee appeared from the front of the column. Her armor was scorched and dented. Sir, we found something. You need to see this. Taemin followed her to where the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. In the center stood an old Veltharan communications array, covered in dust but still humming with power. It still works, Sunhee said. We could contact Earth Command. Taemin moved to the console. His fingers danced across the controls. The language was alien, but the logic was universal. He managed to establish a connection. This is Lieutenant Taemin of the Terran Expeditionary Corps. Does anyone copy? Static crackled. Then a voice, deep and authoritative. This is Admiral Deho of the Terran Fleet. Good to hear your voice, Lieutenant. Situation report. Taman explained everything. The fall of the palace. The evacuation. The desperate escape through the tunnels. As he spoke, more Veltharan officers gathered around the console. Hyon stood at his shoulder, listening. When he finished, there was a long pause. Then Admiral Deho spoke again. Lieutenant, I need to tell you something. The Kravix have deployed a planet-killer weapon. It is in orbit now, charging. In 72 hours, it will fire. Velthara Prime will be destroyed. The chamber fell silent. Taman felt Hyon stiffen beside him. A planet-killer, not just an invasion. Complete annihilation. Can we evacuate everyone in time? Taman asked. No, there are still millions of Veltharans on the planet. We do not have enough ships. We can save maybe 10%. The rest? The Admiral's voice was heavy. The rest will die. Hayon's hand gripped the edge of the console. Her glowing skin flickered like a dying light. Around her, Veltharan officers began to weep openly. There must be another way, Taman said. There is. Admiral Deho's voice changed. Our scientists analyzed the weapon. It can be destroyed. But someone would need to infiltrate the Kravix flagship. Plant explosives in the weapon's power core. Detonate them from inside. A suicide mission, Sun He said quietly. Yes. We estimate the success rate at less than 5%. The ship is heavily guarded. The weapon is in the most secure section. And even if you succeed, you would not survive the explosion. Taman looked at the faces around him. These people had lost everything. Their homes. Their families. Their future. And now they had 72 hours left to live unless someone stopped that weapon. I volunteer, he said. No. Hyon grabbed his arm. You cannot. You will die. Maybe. But if I do nothing, everyone dies. Millions of people. Including you. Taman met her galaxy eyes. I can't let that happen. Sir, I volunteer too, Sun He stepped forward. You will need a team. And me, said Junho, pushing through the crowd. Humans do not abandon each other. One by one, more humans stepped forward. 20 in total, all volunteers, all knowing they would probably die. Admiral Deho's voice was proud. We will send a stealth ship to extract your team. It will arrive at your location in 6 hours. The rest of the fleet will keep the Kravix occupied. What about the Veltharans? Taman asked. Can you evacuate more of them? We will do our best. But Lieutenant, you need to understand, even if you succeed, this war is not over. The Kravix will not stop. They will send more ships, more weapons. This is just buying time. Then we buy time. Taman looked at Hyon. Time is all we ever have. We should use it well. The communication ended. The chamber erupted into activity. Veltharan officers began organizing the evacuation. Human soldiers checked their weapons. Everyone moved with purpose now. They had a plan. Hyon pulled Taman aside. Her face was calm, but he could see the storm in her eyes. You are going to die for my people. People you just met. I'm trying to save them, Taman corrected. There's a difference. Why? Why would you sacrifice yourself for strangers? Taman thought about that. It was a good question. He had only been on this planet for a day. These aliens were not his responsibility. He could just leave with the evacuation ships. Return to Earth. Live. But he could not do that. On Earth, he said slowly, we have a saying. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. I know we just met. But when I look at you, at your people, I do not see strangers. I see people worth protecting. Is that Minho's echo speaking? Or you? I don't know anymore. Does it matter? Hyon reached up and touched the quantum crystal hanging around his neck. Among my people, when someone accepts a soul bond, there is a ceremony. A promise. I never thought I would say these words again. She took a shaky breath. But I need you to know. If you go on this mission, you carry my heart with you. Whether you are Minho reborn or simply Taman, you matter to me. Do you understand? Taman understood. She was offering him her soul. A bond that transcended death itself. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. I promise I will try to come back, he said. Do not make promises you cannot keep. Then I promise this instead. If I do not come back, live. Find a way to survive. Rebuild. Make sure my death means something. Hyon pulled him down and kissed him. It was not gentle. It was desperate, fierce, a drowning person grabbing for air. Taman kissed her back, his hands in her hair, her warmth against his chest. For a moment the war disappeared. There was only them. When they finally separated, Haon's eyes were wet. "I hate you for making me feel this again. For making me hope. Good. Hope is what keeps us human." He smiled. Even us actual humans need reminding sometimes. The next 6 hours passed too quickly. The refugees reached the old transit station. Earth ships arrived and began loading Veltharans. The evacuation was chaotic but organized. Admiral Deho had sent every transport he could spare. Taman spent the time preparing his team. They went over the mission plan again and again. Infiltrate the flagship. Find the weapon's power core. Plant the explosives. Detonate. Simple on paper. Impossible in practice. Junho approached him during a break. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why do you think humans are so good at this? At fighting impossible battles?" Taman considered the question. "I think it is because we know we are small. Earth is just one planet. We are just one species. We have always known we could disappear tomorrow, so we fight like every moment matters, because it does. That is a sad way to live. Maybe. But it makes the happy moments sweeter." The stealth ship arrived on schedule. It was a Veltharan design modified by Earth engineers, sleek and fast, covered in technology that bent light around it. Invisible to most sensors, as the team loaded their gear, Haon appeared. She had changed into simple clothes, no longer wearing her Empress robes. She looked younger, more vulnerable. "I spoke with my council," she said. "They want me to evacuate with the civilians. Go to our colony worlds. Continue the government in exile. That sounds smart." I told them no. She smiled at Taman's expression. "I am staying here. If this is where my empire falls, then I will fall with it. Besides, someone needs to coordinate the defense while you are destroying that weapon. Haon, do not argue. My decision is made." She pressed something into his hand. Another quantum crystal, smaller than the first. "This one is blank. When you come back, it will record our new memories. Our new life." Taman closed his fingers around it. "I will fill it with good ones. You better." The team boarded the ship. Taman stood in the doorway, looking back at Haon. She stood alone on the platform, small and bright against the dark tunnel. He wanted to memorize this moment. "Just in case, Taman," she called out. "I never told you." The last thing Minho said to me. His final words, and what were they? He said, "Thank you for teaching me that some things are worth dying for." Her voice cracked. "Come back to me, so I can teach you what is worth living for." The door closed. The ship launched, rising through the emergency shaft and into the smoke-filled sky. Below, Velthara Prime burned. Above, the Kravix flagship waited like a hungry god. Inside the ship, Taman sat with his team. Sunhee checked her weapons. Yunyo prayed. Others slept or stared at nothing. "Sir," Sunny said quietly, "do you really think we can do this?" "Honestly? No, the odds are terrible. We will probably die," Taman smiled. "But humans have never cared much about odds. And if we fail, then we fail trying. That's more than most people can say." The ship approached the Kravix flagship. It was massive, a city in space bristling with weapons and armor. The planet killer weapon sat at its heart, a dark sphere crackling with energy. "Approaching drop zone," the pilot announced. 60 seconds. Taman stood. His team stood with him. They checked their gear one final time. Rifles loaded. Explosives armed. Helmet sealed. "Listen up," Taman said. "I want to say something profound. Something inspiring. But the truth is simple. We are going to go in there and break that weapon. Some of us will die. Maybe all of us. But we are going to try anyway. Because that is what humans do. We try." The space between the stealth ship and the Kravix flagship was a void of silence. Taman and his team drifted through it, their suits maneuvering them toward a maintenance hatch. No rockets, no thrust, just careful momentum. The flagship was enormous up close. Its hull stretched in every direction, black metal covered in weapons and sensors. Taman could feel his heart beating too fast. He forced himself to breathe slowly. Fear was normal. Panic was not. They reached the hatch. Unyo pulled out a cutting tool and began working on the lock. The others formed a defensive perimeter, rifles pointed outward. In the distance, Taman could see the battle. Earth ships fought Kravix vessels in flashes of light and explosions, buying them time. The hatch opened. One by one, they slipped inside. The interior of the flagship was a maze of corridors and chambers. Everything was built for creatures 3 meters tall. The ceiling towered above them. The doorways were massive. It felt like being an insect in a giant's house. "This way," Taman whispered, checking his scanner. "The weapon core is 15 levels down." They moved in silence, weapons ready. The corridors were empty. Most of the Kravik's crew were at battle stations focused on the fight outside. Good. That meant fewer guards to deal with. They had descended 3 levels when the alarm started screaming. "They know we are here," Sunhi shouted. "Move, move!" Taman led them into a sprint. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. The Kraviks were coming. They reached a junction and took cover. Seconds later, Kravik soldiers rounded the corner. Taman's team opened fire. The narrow corridor became a killing field. Kravik's bodies piled up, but more kept coming. "Junho, seal that corridor," Taman ordered. Junho threw a demolition charge. The explosion brought down the ceiling, blocking their pursuers, but it also cut off their planned route. "New plan," Taman said. "We go through the maintenance shafts." The shafts were cramped and dark. The team crawled through them like rats in walls. Taman could hear Kravik soldiers searching the corridors outside. They were getting organized. Time was running out. They emerged on level 12, close to the weapon core. But the room they entered was not empty. A single Kravik stood there, but this one was different. Bigger than the others, with armor covered in battle scars. Red eyes glowed with intelligence and something else. Recognition. "Human," the Kravik said in heavily accented but understandable language. "I know you." "I don't think we have met," Taman replied, his rifle aimed at the creature's head. "Not you, but I know your face. 3 years ago I killed a Veltheran general. He looked exactly like you. Fought like you. Same eyes full of defiance." Taman's blood went cold. "Minho. You killed Minho. So that was his name. I remember him well. He was strong, brave. He almost killed me before I tore him apart." The Kravik smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I am War Master Keth, and I have dreamed of facing that face again. Now the universe gives me a second chance." Keth moved with terrifying speed. He crossed the room before Taman could fire, his massive hand swatting the rifle away. Taman rolled, drawing his knife, but Keth's fist caught him in the chest. The impact threw him across the room. "Go!" Taman gasped to his team. "Get to the core. I will hold him." "But sir, that is an order." Sunhi grabbed the explosives and led the team toward the exit. Keth tried to stop them, but Taman tackled his leg, his knife finding a gap in the armor. Black blood spilled. Keth roared and kicked. Taman felt ribs crack. Pain exploded through his chest. But he held on, buying his team precious seconds. They disappeared through the doorway. Now it was just Taman and the creature that killed Minho. "You are weak," Keth said. "Just like him. Veltharans, humans. All weak species pretending to be strong." Taman stood, his chest screaming in pain. "Funny. We weak species are winning this fight." He attacked. Not with skill or technique, but with pure desperate fury. His knife flashed. Keth's armor turned most blows, but Taman kept striking. Faster, harder, finding the gaps. They fought through the room, crashing into consoles and equipment. Keth was stronger, but Taman was quicker. Every time the Kraviks tried to grab him, Taman slipped away and struck back. "You fight like him," Keth laughed. The same anger. The same fear. "I'm not afraid of you," Taman spat blood. "I'm afraid of failing the people I love. There's a difference." He feinted left, then drove his knife into Keth's knee joint. The Kravik stumbled. Taman followed up with a strike to the throat. Not deep enough to kill, but enough to make breathing hard. Keth fell to one knee. "Impossible. You should be dead. Humans are hard to kill. We already told you that." Taman raised his knife for the final strike, but Keth was not finished. His hand shot out, grabbing Taman's arm. He pulled the human close, his other hand wrapping around Taman's throat. "I killed him slowly," Keth whispered. "I want you to know that. He begged me to spare his Empress, to let her live." I laughed and crushed his skull while he watched his city burn. Rage exploded in Taman's mind. Not just his rage, something older, deeper, a fury that transcended time. He felt Minho's presence surge within him, a ghost demanding vengeance. The quantum crystal around his neck blazed with light. Taman's free hand shot up, fingers finding Keith's eyes. He pushed. The Kravik screamed and released him. Taman did not stop.
He grabbed the knife with both hands and drove it down through Keth's collar, through armor and flesh and bone until it pierced the creature's heart. Keth shuddered. Blood poured from his mouth. You are him. Come back. No, Taman said quietly. I'm the one who finishes what he started. Keth died. Taman collapsed beside the body, his own injuries catching up with him. Everything hurt. His ribs were definitely broken. His left arm was not working right. But he was alive. He forced himself to stand and staggered toward the exit. He had to find his team. Had to complete the mission. The weapon core chamber was a cathedral of death. The planet killer hung in the center, a black sphere crackling with energy. Around it, his team was fighting desperately. Kravik soldiers poured in from every entrance. Taman saw Junho fall, his chest torn open, saw another human soldier explode under Kravik's fire. But Sunhee was still alive, still fighting, trying to reach the core with the explosives. She was not going to make it. There were too many enemies. Taman raised his rifle with his one good arm and started firing. He hit 3 Kraviks before they realized he was there. Then all their attention turned to him. Sunhee, go, he shouted. She ran for the core. Taman kept firing, kept moving, drawing the Kraviks away from her. Bullets hit his armor. His leg gave out. He fell but kept shooting. Sunhee reached the core. She planted the explosives and activated the timer. 30 seconds, but she was trapped. Kravik surrounded her position. She looked at Taman across the chamber and nodded. She knew what she had to do. Sir, tell my family I died well. Sunhee, no. She detonated her own grenades. The explosion tore through the Kraviks surrounding her and damaged the core's shielding. The timer accelerated. 10 seconds now, everyone out, Taman screamed. The remaining humans ran for the exits. Taman tried to follow, but his leg would not work. He crawled instead, dragging himself forward. 5 seconds. He was not going to make it. Strong hands grabbed him. Hyunwoo, the team's engineer, had come back. I got you, sir. 3 seconds. They were in the corridor now, but not far enough. The explosion would kill them both. 2 seconds. Hyunwoo threw Taman through a doorway and hit the panel. An emergency bulkhead slammed down between them. Hyunwoo. 1 second. Through the small window in the bulkhead, Taman saw Hyunwoo smile. Someone has to make sure it finishes. Tell the Empress we did good. The core exploded. The entire flagship shuddered. Lights flickered and died. Emergency sirens screamed. The planet killer was gone, and with it half the ship's power. Taman lay on the floor, his body broken, his team dead. But the mission was complete. Velthara Prime was safe. He activated his emergency beacon. If Earth ships were close, they might pick it up. Might rescue him. But probably not, his eyes closed. He thought of Haeon, her galaxy eyes, her fierce spirit. He wished he could have kept his promise to come back. The quantum crystal pulsed against his chest. Warm. Alive. And suddenly, Taman was not in the corridor anymore. He stood in a crystal garden under a purple sky. Minho stood beside him looking exactly like Taman but older, sadder. You did well, Minho said. Am I dead? Not yet. But close, Minho smiled. I brought you here so we could talk. Soul to soul. Why me? Why did your soul find me? Because you were brave enough to carry it. Because when you were born, you were already looking for something to fight for. I just gave you a direction. Minho placed a hand on Taman's shoulder. You are not me. You never were. But you carried my love for her. My desire to protect, and you made it your own. I'm sorry I could not save everyone. You saved enough. That is all anyone can do. Minho looked at something beyond the garden. They are coming for you. Earth ships. You will survive. And when you wake up, you must do something for me. What? Love her. Not because I did, but because you want to. Let yourself be happy. That is something I never got to do. The garden faded. Taman opened his eyes to find Veltharan medics leaning over him. Behind them, he saw the interior of an Earth rescue ship. Stay still, a medic said. You are badly hurt, Haeon, Taman whispered. I need to see Haeon. The Empress is safe. She is coordinating the defense from the surface. Taman woke to pain and white lights. His entire body felt like it had been broken and badly reassembled. He tried to sit up, but gentle hands pushed him back down. Easy, said Dr. Nari, a Veltharan physician. You have been unconscious for 3 days. Your injuries were severe. Broken ribs, punctured lung, fractured leg, severe burns. By all logic, you should be dead. But I'm not, Taman whispered. His throat was dry. No.
Humans are remarkably difficult to kill. Your biology is redundant in ways we do not fully understand. Nari adjusted something on a medical scanner. Also, Empress Heian used forbidden Veltheran healing technology on you. She risked her own life energy to stabilize yours. Taemin's chest tightened. Where is she? Leading the defense. The Kravix flagship is destroyed, but their fleet remains. They are regrouping for a final assault. We estimate they will attack within 6 hours. 6 hours. Taemin looked down at his body. His leg was in a brace. His chest was wrapped in bandages. He could barely move. I need to get up, he said. Absolutely not. You need weeks of recovery. I don't have weeks. I need to fight. You can barely breathe. Taemin met Nari's eyes. Then I will fight while barely breathing. Help me up or get out of my way. Nari stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. Humans. You are all insane. But she helped him sit up and brought him his armor. Getting dressed took 15 minutes and hurt more than getting shot. But Taemin managed it. He could not run. He could barely walk. But he could stand and he could hold a rifle. That would have to be enough. He found Heian in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays. She looked exhausted. Her glowing skin had dimmed. Her shoulders sagged with the weight of command. Then she saw him. Her eyes went wide. You should be in medical, she said, rushing to him. I couldn't let you have all the fun. Taemin tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. Heian touched his face gently. You fool. You beautiful, stupid fool. I almost lost you. But you didn't. I keep my promises. She kissed him then, ignoring everyone watching. It was brief but fierce, a declaration to the universe that some things mattered more than propriety. When they separated, she turned back to the displays. Admiral Deho arrived with the entire Terran fleet. Every ship Earth could spare. It is still not enough. The Kravix have 500 warships. We have maybe 100. Then we need to be 5 times better, Taemin said. That is not how war works. It is how human war works. An officer approached. Commander Soman, leader of Earth Special Operations. She was small, fierce, with scars across her face and eyes that missed nothing. Lieutenant Taemin, she saluted. Good to see you alive. We need your tactical input. The Kravix are massing for an attack. Conventional defense won't work. We need something unexpected. Taemin studied the displays. The Kravix fleet was organized in traditional formation. Heavy ships in front, lighter vessels behind. It was efficient and overwhelming. They expect us to defend, he said slowly. To form a line and try to hold. Yes, standard siege doctrine. Then we don't defend. We attack. Everyone in the command center turned to stare at him. Attack? Soman repeated. With 100 ships against 500? Not all at once. We split our forces. Small groups. Hit their flanks, disappear. Hit them again somewhere else. Make them paranoid. Make them spread out. Taemin's mind raced. Humans call it guerrilla warfare. We used it on Earth for thousands of years. Small forces defeating larger armies through mobility and fear. Heian frowned. The Kravix are trained warriors. They do not feel fear. Everyone feels fear. We just need to remind them what it feels like to be prey. Admiral Deho's voice came through the comm. I like it. It is crazy, reckless, and probably suicide. Which means it might actually work. What do you need from me, Lieutenant? Every small ship we have, fighters, bombers, scouts, and volunteers who do not mind dying. You are talking to humans. We are all volunteers for that. For the next 2 hours, they planned. Earth pilots and Veltheran ships. Combined strike teams. Coordinated chaos. It was not a strategy any military academy would teach. But military academies did not win impossible wars. When the Kravix fleet finally attacked, they expected to face a desperate defense. Instead, they found empty space. The human and Veltheran forces had scattered. Then the ambushes began. Fighters emerged from behind debris fields and asteroid clusters. They struck at the Kravix flanks with missiles and energy weapons, then vanished before the enemy could respond. Again and again, in different locations, different angles, the Kravix formation began to break apart as ships turned to chase attackers that were already gone. It is working, Heian breathed. They are disorganized. Now we hit them hard, Taemin said. Admiral, execute Fury Protocol. Fury Protocol was the most insane part of the plan. Human pilots in small fighters loaded with explosives would conduct direct ramming attacks on Kravix capital ships. At the last second, they would eject and rescue ships would grab them. Probably.
The first wave of fighters screamed toward the Kravik's flagship. Point defense systems tore most of them apart, but 3 got through. The explosions ripped holes in the ship's hull. "Second wave, go!" Deho ordered. More fighters. More explosions. The Kraviks were not prepared for this kind of warfare. They had weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat. But these humans were too small, too fast, too willing to die. Taman watched the battle from the command center, giving orders despite the pain in his chest. Beside him, Haon coordinated the Veltharan fleet. They worked together like they had been doing it for years. When he saw an opening, she saw it too. When she gave an order, he already had the next one ready. The quantum crystal around his neck pulsed with warmth. Minho's memories flickered at the edge of his consciousness. But they were not controlling him. They were guiding him, showing him what worked 3 years ago against these same enemies. "Their command ship is isolating itself," Haon said. "They are trying to reorganize. Then we end this." Taman opened a channel to all forces. "All ships focus fire on the command vessel. Everything we have, now!" 100 ships converged on a single target. Energy weapons and missiles filled space with light. The Kravik's command ship's shields flared and died. Its armor cracked, and then slowly it began to break apart. The Kravik's fleet faltered. Without leadership, their coordination collapsed. Ships began to flee. "Do we pursue?" An officer asked. "No," Haon said firmly. "Let them go. Let them tell others what happened here, that the Veltharans and humans will not be conquered." The battle was over. They had won. The cost was heavy. 50 human ships destroyed, 30 Veltharan vessels lost, thousands dead. But Velthara Prime was safe. The Empire would survive. In the command center, Haon collapsed into a chair. Taman sat beside her, his leg finally giving out. They leaned against each other, too tired to speak. "We did it," Haon finally whispered. "We did. So many died." "I know." Taman took her hand. "But so many lived because of them. That has to mean something." Dr. Nari entered with a medical team. "Both of you need treatment immediately." They let themselves be led to medical. As Nari worked on his injuries, Taman felt the quantum crystal pulse one final time. Then it went dark. "Peaceful. What just happened?" he asked. Nari looked at the scanner in surprise. The crystal. It was holding residual quantum patterns, fragments of consciousness. But now it is empty, clean. Where did they go? Gone, released. Perhaps the soul finally found peace. Taman touched the crystal. Minho was gone. The echoes, the memories, the ghosts that had haunted him since birth, all gone. He should feel empty. Instead, he felt free. "Thank you," he whispered to the air, "for showing me what matters." The next days were chaos, rebuilding, counting the dead, negotiating with Earth for a formal alliance. Haon worked without rest, leading her people through the aftermath of war. Taman helped where he could, but mostly he recovered. His body needed time to heal. The human ability to survive trauma had limits. A week after the battle, Haon found him on a balcony overlooking the city. Construction drones filled the sky, rebuilding what the Kraviks had destroyed. It would take years, but it would happen. "I have made a decision," Haon said. "What kind of decision?" "I am abdicating the throne. My nephew, Prince Jiho, will become emperor. He is young but capable. And he was not paralyzed by grief like I was." Taman stared at her. "You are leaving your people?" "No, I'm trusting them to lead themselves," she smiled. "For 3 years I ruled from duty. From responsibility. Minho taught me to protect the Empire, but you taught me something else. That life is more than duty. What will you do?" "Whatever I want. Maybe travel. Maybe help rebuild. Maybe just exist without the weight of a crown." She took his hand. "There is something else. Earth offered you a promotion. Command of the joint human Veltharan Defense Force. You would be a hero. Famous. I know. I declined. Why?" Taman looked at the city. At the people below trying to rebuild their lives. "Because I spent my whole life fighting, looking for something worth dying for. Minho's echo pushed me toward that. But now he is gone and I can choose for myself. And I choose to find something worth living for instead." "Have you found it?" He looked at Haon. At her galaxy eyes that had seen too much pain. At her smile that was slowly returning. "I think so. If she'll have me." Haon laughed. It was the first time he had heard her really laugh.